Hello and welcome back to the Monster Jam Weekly Podcast. My name is Jackson, also known as Monster Jam Historian. You can follow my social media at Monster Jam Historian on Instagram and Monster Jam Historian on YouTube. You can also follow the official Monster Jam Weekly Podcast page at Monster Jam Weekly _podcast on Instagram and Monster Jam Weekly Podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Podbean, and SoundCloud. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, the host of Monster Jam on NBC, Scott Jordan. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
No worries. On today's bonus episode, we discuss Monster Jam and its future. So strap yourselves in.
And mash that loud pedal.
And get ready.
Because it's time to jam.
So, Scott, I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. My first question is kind of a simple one. What got you interested in Monster Jam?
I've always been interested in Monster Jam. When I was a kid, I would go to the Baltimore Arena to watch monster trucks. And I remember seeing Gravedigger there and just was always a fan. I mean, as a kid, you love big trucks that like to run over things and destroy cars and go really fast. So, you know, it was one thing that we would do every year when I was a kid is just go down there and watch the monster truck events, the Monster Jam. And then, I always followed it throughout school and college. And then I went overseas for a long time performing and sort of lost touch with it. Then I got back into the States and just the stars aligned, the time was right, and they were having auditions in Orlando where I lived, and I went and ended up getting cast. So it was sort of fate stepping into the right time, right place. And but again, as a kid, I just remember going to these events and seeing Gravedigger, and I was just so enamored with Dennis Anderson and Gravedigger and just how everything would go at those events. It was just a lot of fun.
So, in your opinion, what makes Monster Jam more enjoyable to watch or commentate or just be involved with than, say, NASCAR or Formula One?
Well, in NASCAR, everybody drives around in a big giant oval. In Formula One, it's, almost a straight line. It's very similar. Monster Jam just gives you 3 different competitions and stadium events. And then, of course, in the Triple Threat Series, you get 6. So you get a little something different to change it up. But, I love NASCAR. I love Formula One. I love to watch both of them. But just for me, the excitement is in the loud roar of a 12,000-pound Monster Jam truck. It's just, there's no sound like it when you start a stock car in NASCAR. You hear the engine rev. It's great, but, it's different when you hear a monster truck fire up and hit the track.
So, what do you love most about the Monster Jam community?
I love how passionate the fans are. It's everybody in this fan base, just they have a passion for the sport and the entertainment and the trucks and the drivers, and they want it. It's like they immerse themselves into this world that is Monster Jam, and it gives them a chance to take a break from reality and just get so in depth with these trucks and the sport. So for me, just the passion that the fans have shown and, their willingness to accept me and, take me on and help me out and just have me be a part of their lives in these events and the TV show. It's been an amazing experience for me. So I will never underestimate the power that is the Monster Jam universe.
All right, so what is your favorite Monster Jam moment of all time?
Oh, man. You really put me on the spot with that one. I would say it used to be Dennis Anderson, Gravedigger, one of his freestyle runs in Baltimore, I think 96-ish, around there. But after watching Ryan Anderson's performance in St. Louis last year, seeing his stadium freestyle win, his stadium 2 wheels, like I go back and watch that event on YouTube, and it's just like he puts it into another gear. That freestyle run that he had with the dynamic saves, that to me is an incredible moment. I wish that I could have been there to see that. I wasn't. Now, if you're asking me what my my favorite moment of Monster Jam all time is I'm going to say the Leduc leap and watching Todd Leduc come down that ramp in Orlando last year and just sky it into another country. For me, that was a joy, and I was up in the in the press booth for that, commentating and just seeing that. It was like time froze, man. And I jumped up, and it was nuts to watch how high he got off that jump.
Yeah, and it was a lot higher than what he did in 2014. Actually, I think
Yes.
it was longer and it was higher too. So you must have felt honored to introduce the first two Hall of Fame inductees, especially Scott Douglas, who must have been your idol.
Yeah, absolutely. To be a part of that moment, I knew from the start before I got there in Tampa that Dennis and Scott were going to be the inductees, and Dennis didn't know and found out from Scott, and Scott didn't know and found out from me. So all weekend long when Scott was there, we were talking about him introducing Dennis in the Hall of Fame. It was tough to have to just kind of fib to him a little bit because he's a perfectionist just like me, and he wants an explanation and understanding for everything we're doing. And when I kept having to lead him on and tell him, yeah, no problem, we'll do it this way, we'll do it that way, I knew that none of that mattered. I knew we were going to do it the way that we had thought it out ahead of time, where he was going to introduce Dennis, and then I was going to introduce him as a second inductee. But for me, that was special because yes, he is a mentor to me, to all of Monster Jam hosts. He's an icon, a legend, the greatest of all time. There will never be another Scott Douglas. So to be able to announce him as an inductee, that was a special moment. I got choked up a little bit. I had to sort of, take a step back and, take a breath and be able to deliver the rest of it, because it was a very touching moment. He deserves it. He's given so much to the sport, and now he gives so much to training us and to, making sure that the next generation of Monster Jam announcers is up to speed and up to the perfection that his calling was.
For sure. And kind of playing off that question, Scott Douglas commentated for a lot of years, being on Speed TV and then moving over to FS1. You had to, well, first off, then Ryan Lacoste was then the voice of Monster Jam, and now you are. How did you feel, being a commentator in the media and whatever, you having to kind of be the new voice of Monster Jam?
It was a lot of pressure. There were big shoes to fill. First, with Scott Douglas, and I don't envy Ryan, because Ryan essentially had to replace Scott Douglas. And then I came over and took over for Ryan, and Ryan is one of my closest friends. We've been up and down the road together, and shared a lot of great moments in Monster Jam. So for him being one of my closest friends, it was tough to take the mantle over. But we have different styles. Ryan's very different from Scott. I'm very different from Ryan. But it's a lot of pressure because, fans get accustomed to hearing a certain voice, and they got accustomed to Scott Douglas for a long time. And then when Ryan came in, it was like, oh my goodness, we want Scott Douglas back. And then they got used to Ryan, and now I came in, and then they want Ryan or Scott Douglas back. And eventually they'll get used to me, and hopefully I can be around for a long time. But I feel like I'm really coming into my own. We're, doing our second season on NBCSN, and I feel like we've made some leaps and strides from where we started. And I get on the message boards. I talk to fans. I listen to their concerns. I get involved in conversations with them. And like I said before, they're very passionate. They expect something when it comes to announcing because of everything that Scott gave to the sport for so long. So I try to listen to them and give as much of that back as possible. But again, I have my own style of play-by-play, and I'm gonna stick to that because that's why they hired me. But I will implement as much of the fans wants into our events as I can.
Yeah, well, you kind of just said it before. You're always like super involved with your fans. You always get back to them. You're always, doing stuff for them, like doing this, for example. Kind of moving on to the next question. How did you feel seeing the independent teams rising up and taking big wins at their first shows of the season at Anaheim and Tampa?
I think it's great for the sport. I was very happy for Matt Pagliarulo and his family. And then when I heard that Jim Kohler won his event as well, and that was just all the talk after our event was over, and that weekend was over. It's just, man, these independents are rising up, and I saw a lot of social media posts from other independent drivers and owners, basically spotlighting this, and they deserve it. And I think it's great for our sport because it keeps everybody competitive, and it shows you that anybody can win. The NFL has, any given Sunday, anybody can beat anybody any given Sunday. And now I hope that we can bring that mantra to Monster Jam, where any given Saturday, anybody can win. So they both deserved it. I was very happy for them. Jim, of course, has been a world champion. And Matt, I think the sky's the limit for him. It's going to be a long road for him to stay on top. But I'm excited that when we go to St. Louis this week, I get to introduce him as the series points leader, because he deserves it.
And Matt is actually at the top of the power rankings, and Jim is third as well. So that has definitely, that has played a big part. Knocking Ryan off from the top of the power rankings, that's really big, because Ryan has been in first since the preseason, and then last week's, and now he's not on it at all. So it's very I don't know what the word is. It's very awesome to see, as I said, and as you said, that the independents are sorry, excuse me, rising up. Second to last question. Could you give any advice to the Monster Jam fans who want to pursue their dreams of being involved in Monster Jam?
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on what they want to be involved in as far as the path that they take. If they want to drive, be a technician, I think that the clearest path now is UNOH, and we talk about that so much during the events and on the TV show, but it's the absolute truth. Now the University of Northwestern Ohio has the best high performance motorsports program in the country. You go there, you learn how to operate these machines, and then eventually you can go to Monster Jam University and learn from Tom Mintz and become a driver. There's also other ways to do that. If that's not the route you want to go, I know many people, some even coming from our dirt crew or our technicians with Monster Jam, have gone through the independent route, and they've just, they've latched on with Jimmy Cretin, J.R. McNeil, or the Pagliarulos, and they've learned through their garages and through them, and then they get an opportunity to drive, and they make that work. They take their moment and they shine. And as far as announcers go, everybody's just coming from all different backgrounds. There's auditions every single year. Feld goes from East Coast, from I think Orlando's where they do the auditions, all the way out to LA and a few cities in between. So, go to an audition, learn about the sport, get yourself prepared, learn how to do an interview, and give it a shot. But there's so many opportunities now for people to join Monster Jam, to be a part of it. And anybody that has any questions or wants to talk more about it, anytime you see me at a pit party, at an event, by all means, please come and ask. Please message me on social media. I'll be more than happy to tell you, the opportunities that are out there.
Why are you kidding?
Lily, that's my daughter, Lily. Lily, what's your favorite? Who's your favorite monster truck? Who's your favorite Monster Jam truck?
Gravedigger.
Gravedigger. All right.
Final question. In your opinion, how do you think Monster Jam will change and evolve?
Well, I think we just keep raising the bar. We keep evolving. We keep adding, and most importantly, I think we keep listening to the fans. And this year, just even the subtle changes. You go back to the All-Star Challenge, and you saw the big moves, the big one jump freestyles from Cynthia Gauthier, Jim Kohler, and they both finished very high in the standings. So now we have that rule that you have to complete a 30-second freestyle in order to be judged. And that really came into effect in Tampa this week, because it cost Morgan Kane the event championship. With the two-wheel skills challenge now evolving into the skills challenge, and giving the opportunity to do a donut. We keep making these changes that are better for the sport. We've added the Hall of Fame. put World Finals now on a Saturday, Sunday to make it more accessible for some of our fans. And I just think the sport will continue to evolve, and these drivers are going to continue to get better, and the skills are just going to be, off the charts. Even watching some of I was in Nashville a couple of weeks ago with the Triple Threat Series Central, and seeing some of our newer driver athletes out there and what they were capable of doing in these Monster Jam trucks. It's just incredible. So I just see Monster Jam is going to be around, way past me being around this earth. And I just hope for the continuous popularity, and we're going to keep expanding the globe. I think we have one more continent that we need to hit, and that's Antarctica. And there's no doubt in my mind that somewhere down the line we'll get there. But we have an incredible fan base, and I love chatting with them. I love talking to them. So if you're a fan of the sport and you find me on social media, please call me. I think the fans are going to keep us evolving and keep the sport getting bigger. And now we're on NBC. So we've gone from Speed to FS1 to NBC. And I think that the sky is the limit for us.
Thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in. Remember, if you want to follow my social media, it's at Monster Jam Historian on Instagram and Monster Jam Historian on YouTube. You can also follow the official Monster Jam Weekly podcast page at Monster Jam Weekly _podcast on Instagram, and Monster Jam Weekly podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Podbean, and SoundCloud. Before we end off today's episode, Scott, would you like to shout anything out or plug anything before we go?
I do want to shout something out. I want to shout St. Jude.
Yes.
The last probably 24 hours, you've probably seen a lot of our drivers and athletes posting about St. Jude. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of this initiative. But we are now teaming up, and this season we are partnering and supporting St. Jude. So it's This Shirt Saves Lives. Supercross has been doing it. I was a part of that last. They literally they pay for everything, so all the families have to do is focus on living and getting better. And so now you can be a part of that, and all you have to do is text 785-833, and each tour has their own code. So if you want mine, it's MJSTG. So you'll text MJSTG to 785-833, and your Monster Jam t-shirt with our logo on the back. It says "This shirt saves lives," and that comes donation. But if you can't do that, you can donate $5. Anything helps. But St. Jude is incredible, and we're proud to be teaming up with them. On social media, it's follow me, talk to me. I do my best to get back to everybody. And thanks so much for supporting Monster Jam and us. And our next episode of Monster Jam on NBCSN is from Raymond James Stadium. It's this Saturday, and I believe it's midnight. And I know that's a little late. It's 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, so set your DVRs if you want to.
Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. Have a great week. Bye, guys.